And I'm going to make sure we record. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. It's time to grab your coffee or your tea, sit back and relax, and let's chat about what's happening in the stars. Only today, we're not really going to chat about what's happening in the stars. Hold on here. Sorry about that. I was listening to a video yesterday, so it went live. And hello to Pia Orleane and Cullen Baird Smith, my guests this morning. Welcome to Living Astrology. We're so thrilled to have you here with us this morning.
Thank you, Janet. We're delighted to be back on your show again.
We're really happy to have conversations with you. They're so full and they're so wonderful. So thank you for inviting us back.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. And I have been sharing this calendar and the astrology with people for now 2 years. We were just talking behind the scenes here this morning, and I think it was the 2019 calendar where I really got caught up. And Cornelia and I had a conversation with you. And after that point in time, I've been using this calendar. And I know that all of the listeners have also really caught on to this. And I was really excited to find out you were continuing to do the 2021 calendar. So let me just for a moment tell people a little bit about you, and then we can launch into the information that you want to share with us this morning. So Pia Orleane, Ph.D., is a former practicing psychologist, a respective intuitive astrologer, and the author of the Nautilus Gold Award-winning book, Sacred Retreat, Using Natural Cycles to Recharge Your Life. She is co-author with Cullen Baird Smith of the Wisdom from the Stars series. Trained in archaeology and anthropology, Cullen Baird Smith is an empathic intuitive who has been accessing parallel realms of love and light since childhood. He is co-author with Pia Orleane of the COVR award-winning book, Pleiadian-Earth Energy Astrology, Charting the Spirals of Consciousness, Conversations with Laarkmaa, a Pleiadian view of the new reality, and Remembering Who We Are, Laarkmaa's guidance on healing and the human condition. Cullen and Pia are also co-creators of the revolutionary 2021 Pleiadian-Earth Energy Calendar. They live in Europe. For more information on their calendar books or personal sessions, see their websites, which we are going to share with you, as well as the link for you all to order the calendar. And wow, that is quite a bio for both of you. Very distinguished. You have quite the body of work, don't you?
Well, thank you. And I'd like to add one recent thing that we forgot to update your bio, but the Wisdom from the Stars trilogy, we just introduced the third book in the trilogy 2 months ago. That's it. Pleiadian Manual for Accelerated Evolution Ascension. And it rounds out Laarkmaa's trilogy really nicely. So they take you now from the beginning all the way through to the current situation and into the future. And it's been our great pleasure to bring forth these books.
Yeah, I have not read the other two. And in all honesty, I did not get to read the whole of this, but I'll tell you what I did. First off, I always go to the table of contents, and there was something I saw that said the Ascension diet. And I went, oh my gosh, because I'm, seeing a nutritionist right now, and everybody I know is, thinking about their diet. And one of the big things about human design astrology, which is a discipline that I do, is that in 7 years we're undergoing a leap in our evolution, and our dietary needs will change, and moving more toward exactly what this was all about. I couldn't believe it as I was reading that. So it's fascinating to see, like I said, the coherence between the systems. It's just amazing. So why don't we start this morning by telling people a little bit about the calendar, how it all came about, and whatever else you want us to know about the calendar itself.
Well, we introduced our first calendar of this type in 2019, and that was after 9 years of Laarkmaa's giving us instructions, information, training about the energies, and telling us how to work with them.
And we played with, we studied, we worked with all of this information that we were given by our Pleiadian friends for more than a decade. And we tested, before we brought this to the public, we tested the system by doing several things. One of them was we would retroactively look at what had happened to us on certain days, certain times of the year, and match that with what the calendar would say or predict that would have happened. And we had an amazing, as you said, coherence with those things that actually happened on those dates.
And then we moved forward with it and started planning our lives with, well, let's see what happens if we plan to do it in this energy or this energy. And we discovered very quickly that the energy of 2 days often gave us challenges because there was always a polar opposite of duality. It would show up in some way if we were going to the store, if we were making a phone call, whatever we were doing, we understood that 2 would be a day of possible challenge. So we started learning the energies of the universal energies and the earth energies and what they represent. And we also, as Cullen said, looking retroactively, we looked at days that we'd had challenges that came out of nowhere. And that's when we discovered the potency of shadow cycles, which each person has once every 65 days. You have a period of shadow cycle where you have this fantastic opportunity to do an inner review with yourself and then go forward with new energy. Well, the collective has that same opportunity to do a review of our human view of the world, our collective ideas, our identities, all the things that we're aligned with. With the collective, it happens every 260 days and coinciding with the cycle of Venus. And incidentally, we happen to be in one of those right now.
Oh, yes. And it began on September 11th, the date that shall live in infamy here in this country.
Right.
And it was a day where my daughter's life blew up at that night. And it wasn't until maybe 4 days later, after I'd been all emotional and upset, and I realized, oh, dang, we're in the shadow cycle. And so then, but the beauty in all of that, now that doesn't make what happened any easier, but the beauty in that was the ability to go into that shadow and go, what is the shadow that's being presented here? Um, and I'm assuming that's the correct way to work this time period.
Yes.
Absolutely.
There are themes for each particular shadow cycle that work well if you look at what your own energy is,
Uh-huh.
which your listeners may not know, but I do Pleiadian-Earth Energy Astrology also. So I can show you what your universal energy is, what your earth energy is, what your shadow cycles are, your karmic patterns, all of that. And if you know what your own shadow cycles are, you can look at the themes that are relevant to you, in addition to just looking at the circumstances that show up.
And
it's really powerful.
And the
Yes.
interesting thing about the shadow cycles is they give us an opportunity to look deeply into ourselves. We can notice what's out of balance. We can notice if we're too emotional about certain items, certain things, certain thoughts. We can truly, deeply look at what our true essence is. Or if we become emotional, which many people do during a shadow cycle, we can avoid any growth or any movement by simply being stuck in whatever that emotion is, or whatever that particular thing, that if we simply looked at it objectively. And Pia and I use the term objectively quite often in this work, because if we step away from the emotion and actually look at what truly is going on and how we're perceiving or how we're reacting to what's coming to us, it can make a tremendous difference in our lives. So there's a high road and a low road to each cycle.
Definitely. And I think people now are really recognizing that there's something off right on the planet, that there's something weird going on. Even my son, who's not particularly metaphysical, said to me the other day, Mom, it's like everybody's shadows are coming up. And I went, I can't believe you're saying that to me. um,
Exactly
but
what's happening.
yeah, it's that I think a lot of people are recognizing this. So, give us an idea of what people can do when these shadow things come up. What's the best way to handle it? And then maybe Pia also let us know, what is the theme for this particular shadow cycle, if you could say that there's a theme.
Well, the theme for the shadow cycle is relevant to each individual, not for the
Okay,
collective.
gotcha.
In the collective, all the themes merge together because we are individuals. So each individual's, whatever they've been working on, comes to the top. The themes are relevant to the individual shadow cycles. But having said that, I would say that this particular theme with the Pleiadian view is better clean it up, guys. Time's running short. You're evolving rather quickly in these energies, so you better pay attention. And you ask for guidance about how to deal with it. After years and years as practicing as a psychologist, I can tell you that the Pleiadian methods of dealing with emotions are far better than any psychological training I ever had.
No
In,
kidding. I believe that.
in conversations with Laarkmaa, Remembering Who We Are, and the third book in the trilogy, which deals a lot with family issues in the Pleiadian Manual, Laarkmaa teaches us that they view our feeling state in two different ways. There's our natural feelings that we come to this planet with as innocent babies: love, joy, compassion, bliss, trust, kindness. All of these things are our natural feeling states. They categorize the emotions as anger, fear, grief, jealousy, frustration, rage, all the things that get us upset. And they said the beauty of the system is that the emotions are really signposts. They're there to tell you that your perspective is out of balance. It's not that something has happened to you, it's that you're reacting to whatever happened. And the emotions coming up to teach you how to respond differently instead of reacting in an old habitual pattern.
It helps us understand that it really truly doesn't matter what someone's doing to us or saying to us. It's how we react. It's how we perceive our own actions, our own thoughts, our own words. It has nothing to do with someone triggering us. We may get triggered, but that trigger is about our imbalance. It's not about the person or the situation or whatever's happening in the world. It's not about that. It's only about our work and how we perceive what's happening to us.
Yeah.
And the goodness of it is we always have the choice to step out of that perception or that belief system. We have the choice to say, oh, I see, I get it. I can do something different. I can make another choice. I don't have to become so reactive.
And the way that we get stuck is because when we react, we generally get caught in a loop of some kind of trauma that has impacted us from childhood, or maybe from an earlier situation, or even from what Laarkmaa calls a parallel life. Last year, Laarkmaa instituted a trauma clearing program because they said you're coming up during really auspicious time, humans, to make an evolutionary leap. It's getting closer, and you best do your work and clear out all the traumas that are blocking you from making progress in the ways that you need to. So they started this trauma clearing program last year, and we've been getting all kinds of people tell us their lives are changing because they're no longer reacting emotionally in the same way. They're now responding to circumstances objectively.
And we've also gotten feedback over the years. Laarkmaa's been doing personal sessions with individuals for a very long time, many, many, many years. We've gotten some very interesting feedback pieces. Several people have said, you know, spending an hour with Laarkmaa is better, more changing, more helpful than 20 years of psychotherapy.
Right. We don't need no more psychobabble. Let's just get right to the heart of things. I mean, I would imagine that's an amazing session. Yeah, so I want to say a quick good morning to my listeners and find out if they have any questions for you. Then I want to go back and talk about the trauma thing that you were talking about with the trauma session or the trauma work that you're doing, because I think there might be some people who are interested in hearing more about that. So one moment here, I'm just going to switch screens. You probably won't see anything different, but wow, wow, wow. Good morning, Kimberly, Pauline, and Jennifer Peachy, and Tom. Good morning, Allison, and Ursula, hello to you, Amanda J. It's great to see all of you out there. Tom Wright says, aloha, Pleiadians. Asa, so excited. And Amy, good morning. Christine Buckingham, good morning. And I want to just, there's so many. Leslie and Laura Hammer, good morning. She says she's been looking forward to Pia and Cullen since I first announced it, which was, I don't know, way back in August. I've been just like, September, it's almost here. Let's see. Taylor Jenkins, good morning. And JLo says this is genealogy week. I'm not sure what that, maybe that was a private message. Mimi, good morning. And Pauline says, must we be seated by the Pleiadians for the calendar to resonate with us? Um, that's a great question. We'll come back to that one, and I'll let Pia and Colin address that one perhaps. Asa says this is so beautiful and valuable. Love it. Andy, good morning. Uh, just looking now for questions. Loanne, good morning to you too. And okay, so we've got our usuals checking in with us, and let's go back to that question, Pia and Colin, because I think that's a good question. Is there something inside of each of us that has to be opened up or triggered in order for this information to really seep in and resonate with us?
I don't think so. I think we are mistrained to follow the Gregorian calendar, which is an artificial, illusionary reference for time. And once you open your mind and your heart to saying, could there be another way? And pick this up, automatically it begins to make sense because this system is aligned with nature. And we are all connected to nature, no matter where we come from, whether we are Pleiadian star seeds, Arcturian, Orion, angelic, Davic, whatever component makes us who we are, we're all connected to nature. Go ahead.
Well, the basic premise of this calendar is this calendar is designed around energy, not time. The Gregorian calendar is designed around time as our clock system of constantly watching clocks and watches. It's focusing on time, 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 time.
Yeah.
This system is absolutely about energy because energy is the makeup of the entire universe.
And if you want a mental picture, think about the fact that with the Gregorian calendar, you have to alter it every 4 years because it's out of sync. That tells you
That's a huge clue.
something's off. This calendar, here's something else, Janet. The Gregorian calendar changes time every night at midnight, an arbitrary time that makes absolutely no sense. This calendar changes at sunset, a time when something in nature is actually happening. So again, it's in harmony with nature. So no, you don't have to be part Pleiadian to resonate with this. Anybody who's on this planet can resonate with the energy of it.
It's helpful. It's actually helpful to anybody who decides to take a look at it and make it part of their lives. Anybody, whether they're interested in astrology itself or whether they're interested in any particular metaphysical kinds of studies, this gaps all of the different kinds of information and can stand alone in its wisdom and its way of helping us understand the flow of energy.
After doing the calendar for 2 years in 2019 and 2020, we had so much feedback from it that this year we expanded it quite a bit. To begin with, we made it an 18-month calendar. So it has, 18 months worth goes into 2022 for people to be able to forward look to what's coming.
Oh,
It has quotes
nice.
from the Pleiadians on every single day with some beautiful artwork, pictures. And we also have additional information at the back of explanations about what the Venus cycles mean, how to look for them. Eclipses are listed, equinoxes, all
Yeah,
kinds of things are listed all the way through it.
I'm actually going to bring some information up on my screen here and share it. And maybe you can talk to us about what it is we're looking at in just 1 second here. Let me share my screen. And there we go. So here's one of the back pages, the 13-day period explanations, which I love because I'm really big at re-emphasizing to my listeners every week that there's, I call it sort of this umbrella energy that is in evidence throughout the whole 13-day period. And here you put this just like this. So right now we are in, what was our 1 day? It was, holy gosh, I can't see. Maybe I can make this bigger.
Self-regulating. A northern energy self-regulating is where we were.
Yeah,
That's what we're
self-regulating.
focusing on now.
There we
This
go.
is what we call overlighting. There's an overlighting feeling.
Ah,
Even though each day has a different energy itself, there will be an overlighting theme that is present in each energy. So we're in a northern overlighting of self-regulating for the whole 13 days, which means we should focus on what self-regulating is all about. It's
yes.
about learning to do things differently. The very thing we were talking about earlier about emotions, noticing how to be objective, how to regulate yourself to whatever's coming towards you. So if you want to look at, say, two, the day two, catalyzing. Catalyzing is a day that might bring a lot of challenges to grow, and you can react to them in the same old patterns, or you can say, no, I think I'm going to regulate this and do it differently, because you've got that support of that overlighting energy of self-regulating. So you always have the back support or the overlighting plus the energy of what's going on that day.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Now let's see if I can get to the next picture here. Nope, that isn't going to let me do it that way. So we'll do it a different way. Um, the next one was, yep, I know. The next picture was about the earth energies, which this is already in the other calendar, all the other calendars that we've seen so far, right?
Yes.
Um, and it just goes day by day through the earth energies. There are 20 earth energies, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
The calendar gives you the appropriate use of the energy and the inappropriate, which is, as Cullen said a minute ago, the high road and the low road.
Right. I love
We,
that, right? It
we,
gives you information,
Yes.
more than just looking at a day.
yes, yes. We always have the choice. Um, one thing about humans on Earth is that this planet has a very special element that doesn't exist in many, many other places around the galaxies. We have choice. We can decide in any given moment, should we do this? Is this choice for the highest good of all? Or is this choice a selfish choice, something that I want to do just for myself? And as we evolve and as we grow, when we make the choices for the highest good of all in everything we do, whether it's a thought, an action, a word that we give out, it makes an amazing difference because that choice ripples out beyond Earth, beyond humanity, into the universe and affects all energies.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see if I click on this. No. So that's the earth energies. Then the next picture is the page with the June 2021. And I find this interesting because it's way different than what we're used to seeing. And if for any of you who have the calendar out there, this is a sampling then of what we're going to see. There's a lot of information packed in here. Can you help us unpack what you've done here in the 2021 calendar?
Sure. Well, in June 2021, you'll notice that there's a grade area starting on June the 1st, where it says 7 planting. And on June the 17th, that's another collective shadow cycle like we're having now. So this is a period where things can really be challenging if we're not doing our work. And a lot of people on this planet don't even know to do their work. So it's a very challenging period. We also have listed on there solar eclipses, the full moon, the new moon. There's a solstice in June, and that's listed on there. And the way you read the calendar is the legend at the bottom. The blue circled number is the beginning of the 13-day period. And it tells you the blue numbers of the universal energies of each day. The lettering under that is the earth energy of each day. So on June 8th, you'll see that's a 1 that begins a new 13-day period. And go up one, Janet.
I'm so used to looking at the other numbers that I forget that Gregorian is embedded in there as well.
So June 8th is actually 1 of a new 13-day cycle. That's
Yeah.
the universal energy. And the illuminating is the earth energy that'll be overlighting the whole 13-day period. And it's a Western energy. So there's also a legend in the calendar that talks about what the directional energies mean. The West brings in energies of transcendence and new growth from the psychic realms, from the intuitive realms. The West is our dream state, our visionary state. So that's going to be bringing in those energies for the whole 13-day period. And boy, is that a good one to have in the middle of a shadow cycle.
I bet. So I see all these other symbols here. There's this little one here that is the solar eclipse. I mean, as an astrologer, how fun just to be able to look and go, oh, there it is, it's coming. And the other thing that I saw here that was different, what was it? The solar eclipse, full moon, the new moons, the solstice, also with this beautiful little sun here letting us know we're changing. Also on a day in the west, but also an ascension day, a 13, kind of like that. That's kind of beautiful. We have a question from the people listening. They want to know if there's a meaning behind the different colored outlines here. See where this is yellow and this is blue, and then this is up here is green. Any
Good
special
question.
meaning there?
Yes, there is. The blue indicates Western energy. The yellow indicates Southern energy. There will be other months that have red, which indicates Eastern energy, and
Mhm.
the green indicates Northern energy. So it's just an indicator of the direction, and it marks the 13 days that stand out.
So the boxes around the 13 days that are starting at a specific direction based on the color.
Correct.
Yes, yes.
Love it. That makes things a little bit more clear because I even wondered about the coloring. I knew it had something to do with the beginning of the week. It didn't even occur to me to think about the coloring being a direction. So I'm just checking to see if there are other questions about this before we go on. Oops, sorry about that. Oh, question about a Venus. Well, let's hold on the Venus question, Asa. We'll bring that one up in a little bit here. So then let's take a look at the next picture that I have. By the way, I love this monthly photo that you do. I take those pictures after I'm done with the calendars for the year, and I cut them out and I use them as covers to my different notebooks.
That's
That's how
great.
beautiful those pictures are. I don't want to, I just can't throw them away or recycle them. I've got to use them for something. And here's another new piece to this year that I really like is that you have the new moons and the full moons separated.
Yes,
Yes.
we do.
And here's where we actually get to see that you really are moving into the 2022 because we can see some of the moons for that as well. Is that all? That's not all. It's through June of 2022.
It's an
Yes.
18-month calendar, so it goes through
Yeah.
June.
Yeah. I like that. I think that there's something. Is there a reason why you chose to do that? Is that just for publication concerns, or was there a spiritual reason why we would do that in this calendar?
We can tell you that very easily. Laarkmaa told us to do that.
Oh, I like that. Nice and decisive. There's a good reason. Laarkmaa said to. Love it. I think it's interesting too, the colors and the pictures that you use, they're just so beautiful. They just call you in and just draws you in. I also think it's interesting that you move up till 2022 because in that particular year, the USA is having its Pluto return, and that explains kind of a lot of the difficulties that the US is going through right now as we're, in the shadow of that period of time. So it does kind of help us to see, even through part of that year that we have time, that there's something there to anchor to. And let's see, is there another picture I wanted to bring up? Let's look at special days because that's another new one. That's another new piece that you have here. And it tells us the days like spring solstices or summer solstice. Now I lost it in here. There we go. So special energies.
Janet, it was actually Cullen's idea to make the calendar fuller with more information in it.
Brilliant.
He's the one that said we should give people more information so they understand it. And once we decided that, that's when Laarkmaa said, well, since you're going to put more information in, why don't you make it 18 months? So I have to give Cullen credit for coming up with that too.
Well,
Good job, Cullen.
it may have been inspired intuitively by Laarkmaa, but I'll take partial credit.
So solstices, you know what those are. Equinoxes are pretty clearly marked. We've talked about the collective shadow cycle, and you know what those are now. Period of time that you have the opportunity to clear out old belief systems and dysfunctional behavior patterns, which is what we're in the middle of right now. The spiritual birthday is probably new to everybody. This has to do with your individual shadow cycles that you have. Once every 65 days, you go through your own personal shadow cycle, and you go through 4 different phases of individual conscious awareness, community conscious awareness, global conscious awareness, and universal conscious awareness. When you've made the rotation through all four, that's the end of a 260-day Venus cycle of being able to progress at your own rate. And at the end of your last shadow cycle of that progression, you have a spiritual birthday. It's a day to say, yippee, I've made it through this. Then you start into the next 260-day year and you get a whole new round of shadow cycles every 65 days. So we think because the Gregorian calendar is so artificial anyway, that the spiritual birthdays are really something to celebrate in our progress.
And so the spiritual birthday is based on the day, the universal day, and the earth energy of the day that you were born.
The spiritual birthday ultimately is based on that, but actually it's based on the shadow cycle in conjunction with that. Because to look up your shadow cycles, you have to know what your energy was, universal on earth, the day that you were born. But then you have to look at where you have to count out 65 days and then the next 65 days and the next 65 days. When you finish that last 65-day cycle, it will be the last day. It'll be like you are 10 days old because you start the spiritual cycle, the shadow cycle of the first day of the last cycle. And your birthday is the last day of the last cycle.
Gotcha.
Yep. So I have to say also, I did somebody's chart just yesterday who was very excited because her birthday was on the 8th of the month, but she's born after sunset, which means she really carries the energy of the 9th of the month, not the 8th. And she was so excited because she said, my birthday has never really felt like it was on the 8th. It feels so much more aligned that it's on the 9th, which just points out the artificiality of the Gregorian system and the naturalness of this system.
Interesting.
Mhm.
And interesting that somebody would be that aware of how they really
Mhm.
resonated with a different energy.
Yes.
I was actually quite shocked. It's the first client I've had who actually could feel the difference immediately.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a completely different way of looking at things. You know, in astrology, we kind of do look at a diurnal chart versus a nocturnal chart,
Mhm.
or a day chart versus a night chart. And I rarely look at it that way. And maybe I'll have to reestablish a new way of looking at people's charts.
Mm.
So, a question, Laura is asking, how do we know what our individual energy is?
Well, there's an ephemeris in this book, which is the accompanying book for the calendar,
Right.
Pleiadian-Earth Astrology, Charting Spirals of Consciousness. However, I'd like to tell all the listeners, the publisher made a real bad mistake in this book. They
Uh-oh.
limited, they limited the length of the ephemeris to 1975 to 2030.
Yeah,
So anybody who's born before 1975, you can't find it in the book. And we tried to talk them out of it, but they wouldn't have it. So they put a link in here and you can go online to look it up. However, they put a period after the link and they spelled it funny. So people email me all the time saying, how do I get into the link?
I can't figure out
How to get in the link.
what I'm supposed to be looking at.
So just if you go to the ephemeris from this book to find out your own personal energy, drop the period off. It's not part of the link, and be sure you spell it exactly like they have it and you'll find it. If not, just email me. The other way you can find out is I do personal charts for people. It takes me about 5 hours to do an individual chart, including an hour of consultation that I do for each person, because I do them intuitively by hand and using both this ephemeris and a Venus ephemeris for the Venus energy that's part of this system. This system is based on Venus energy.
Right.
I combine all of that and I do individual charts for people to tell them what their energy is, how to move through their shadow cycles, how their relationships interact in their lives, and they can find out their energy that way too.
And so they can go to your website, right? That is piaorleane.com.
Yes,
And it's Orleane,
yes,
right?
that's
And
right.
Asa, maybe you could, in the background there, type that in for people so that they have that as piaorleane.com. And that's the same place they can find the ephemeris as well. Is that right? Or is
No,
that on, it's
the
not on that
ephemeris is
page?
only in the book. It's
Okay.
only if you buy the book, it's in there.
Okay.
Uh,
Gotcha.
But if you go to the website, you will find maybe it is on the website. I can't remember, Janet, to be honest.
Well, let's
Or not. It may be on the website, but
it says no. It's at audio, or it's at innertraditions.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so that's not your website,
no, it's
but I'm
No.
not.
sure it's got a link to it somewhere. You know what we did one day? Um, I also have Bruce Schofield's Mayan astrology book.
Mhm.
So for people who were born before 1975, I would go to the Mayan book because it does have it all the way back to 1900, I think it was, or 1920. Looked it up there and then translated it over, going, okay, so what is that one in the Pleiadian? It was so onerous, but
Yeah.
there wasn't that many that were
We know
older than.
Bruce, and he read our work when we were doing this. He read it, and it's similar because the Pleiadians gave the Mayan calendar. So they've been trying to get humanity to wake up to live by energy instead of time for a really long time. We just updated it with our Pleiadian friends.
Yeah, and I think it's in it was right for the Mayans, right? They
Mhm.
used it. And then maybe there was this period of darkness, blindness,
Yes.
where we needed the more mechanized calendar to organize what was happening in our evolution. But now there's this other opening that's come, that we can use a calendar like this, and it makes more sense because it's so obvious. It's so painfully obvious that we got out of the rhythm of natural cycles of time. This helps us orient ourselves back to that,
Mhm.
and hopefully it changes the whole field of energy because we're living in a more conscious manner and not just by sort of this mechanical, oh, today's the 17th of September. It has no real key energy in it. There's nothing there that tells you about the energy, the feel of the day, the consciousness of the day, the breathing energy of the day,
Mhm.
um, in the Gregorian calendar. So this helps us orient a little bit differently here. Question, let me see, was there another question there? Christine is asking, oh, are those directions, southwest, north, etc., are their earth directions?
Yes.
I
Yes.
think
Yes.
that's what she was asking.
Yes. Because we orient ourselves here on Earth. Yes.
Right, right. And that's interesting too, because a lot of the Native American cultures, they were always, the medicine wheel, very oriented to direction. The
Mhm.
Mayans did the same thing. Even in Mayan astrology, I remember now that there was the north, the west, the east, the south. It was all very important. And now we see maybe the source of all of that wisdom coming from our star friends here. And now before I get into this other question about Venus, I want to go back to the group that you said that Laarkmaa is started, or I'm not sure if it was a class, a meeting. What is it about trauma? And is that still happening? And can people just join in, or tell us about that?
It's an individual system. It's tailored and designed for one person at a time. It's just Laarkmaa speaking with one person and helping them understand their blockages through their traumas. So it's a session that people ask for, and we fit them into our schedule, and then they have a conversation with Laarkmaa about what's troubling them, what's going on in their lives, if they're having a repetitive thought that's disturbing, or if they're having unusual dreams, or it can
Emotional
be
reactivity.
or a physical signal from the body trying to tell us there's something out of balance.
But so your listeners are not disappointed, it's not a one-time everything's fixed. It is a three-tiered program
Hmm.
that people sign up for, and they do it one program at a time. It's 30 minutes at a time. Laarkmaa goes in, they assess the trauma, they ask the person to revisit the trauma, they change the energy around the trauma, and then they do something very interesting. They tap using the sound of the person's voice, they tap new energy with new thoughts and words into the chakra system to get it into the body while they're pulling the traumatic wounding out of the body. And it takes 3 sessions. They give you homework in between the first 2. When you're finished with your homework, they schedule the next level, and they will clear out all your trauma by doing that. They do also recommend highly that you do a personal synchronization, which is a conversation with them first. So you can talk about whatever your questions are, so they can get familiar with your energy, you can get familiar with theirs, because the trauma clearings are like going into a medical procedure. It's clip, 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 let's get this done. There's no time for conversation. So the
Gotcha.
personal conversations beforehand are really important.
And then the third session is the healing, like the recheck after the surgery to make sure the new has been taken in. And
Yes.
where can people tap into that? Is that also on your website?
That's on our website, laarkmaa.com, under services.
And Laarkmaa.com is LAARKMAA.com.
Yep.
Right.
And
All
just
right.
look under services and you'll find it there.
Nice. Awesome. That seems like a pretty amazing session for someone who is experiencing, and there are quite a few people experiencing some really devastating kinds of traumas right now, and they are in need. I would bet that that's a very popular thing for you to do.
Well, Janet, I would say that we are really booking up 5 and 6 weeks in advance because people are needing it now more than ever.
I
And
don't doubt that.
we do everything we can to help every single person who needs us.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Now, I'm not sure what that question is from Pauline Asa, but Asa has a really good question about Venus. Now, Venus is an important planet. We use it in regular astrology. We also use it in human design astrology, but Venus is the planet of both the Mayan and Pleiadian system, kind of similar system, same system, basically. And how does the Venus cycle coordinate with our natal Venus? If I think that's the question that she's asking. And especially because, like Libras and Taurians, they have Venus as their ruling planet in astrology. So should they be more mindful of the Venus cycle? And what can you tell us about that cycle?
I don't know much about Western natal astrology except
Hmm.
the alignment of the planets for each individual person's
Yes.
horoscope. What I do know in answer to the question, should you be more mindful of the Venus energy, is I would say absolutely categorically yes. This system is based on where Venus is astronomically in the sky. It's
Hmm.
not just astrological, it's the physical movement of Venus in the sky. She moves through 5 star points because she does make a star in the sky. She moves through 5 star points of energy. Ariel Gutman has named these star points according to their energy using Western astrology names. So you would have either an Aries star point or a Gemini star point or a Virgo star point, whatever your star point is, that's your governing energy. And I find it in the clients that I work with a much stronger defining feature than where their natal Venus is. I am aware of the natal Venus, although I don't do Western astrology, but the Venus star point is such an overriding factor that it governs how all of your relationships are and how you move through your own life, where the flow of energy is. The star moves like this, and as it's moving like this from point to point to point to point around, you have different interactions with different people on the star. You could position yourself as being at the head of the star. That's you as whatever your star point is. Um, for
I,
instance, if you were an Aries, there you go.
Yes.
That's how it moves. That's
yeah,
how it
I just
moves.
remembered that you had this in the calendar, the Venus influences, and it's
So,
such a beautiful, beautiful picture.
and then there's phases of Venus as well, and Venus changes phases because Venus moves in the sky to different positions all the time. Some are longer than others. She stays in one position longer than another, but the star points are pretty much identical. And when you learn where you are in alignment with your own Venus star point, it's much easier to see how the flow of all your relationships work or don't work.
So is there a way to, how do you know what your Venus star point is? Is that, like, I have the Light of Venus by Adam Gainsbourg. That's a different,
That's
um,
the phases. That's the phases of Venus. Adam's a good friend.
Yeah, I was just going to bring his name up
Yeah.
along with Ariel Gutman because they both wrote their books simultaneously, without knowing each other. They both were published and
within a month of each
within a
other.
month of each other.
Yeah.
And it was amazing that two people were connected to the same kind of energy at the same time. It was a huge surprise to each of them.
And they're both colleagues and personal friends of ours, so we know them well. And
I love it.
but in answer to your question, how to find out what your
Yes.
Venus point is, you need an astrologer probably to do it. So either I can do it for you in this system, or Ariel Gutman can do it in her system because I'm trained in her system. The only difference is that when I do it for you, you get the full Pleiadian Earth Energy Astrology also. When Ariel does it, she does it from a Western astrology viewpoint and weaves it into Western astrology. But either of us can provide that for you.
Interesting. I'll have to, I wouldn't even, as an astrologer myself, not even know how to find that. So I'm going to get her book or have my own Pleiadian reading. I do know I was born with Venus at her maximum elongation as a morning star.
Uh-huh.
And so that made sense to me. So the
Yeah.
Venus points, though, are seemingly a little bit different thing that you're talking about.
When you're maximum elongation, you're using Adam's work for the phase, and Morning Star, you're using Ariel's work for the Morning Star.
Ah.
You
Ah.
combine the two, and I tie the three of them together, their two work into the Pleiadian Earth Energy Astrology, so you get a complete picture.
I love it. Now, where can people find out information on getting a reading from you? On your website?
On my website, piaorleane.com, or on laarkmaa.com. It's on both places.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
great.
both of our sites are somewhat interchangeable. You can find duplicate things, not completely, but often on either site.
If it has to do with the Pleiadians, it'll be on Laarkmaa site, absolutely. If
Mhm.
it has to do with astrology, it's on both sites. If it has to do with my personal work, you'll only find that on my site. But Cullen's right. There's a lot of lap over.
Good, 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 good. I have a couple other questions coming in here from Christine. She asks, natal Venus is in Aquarius. Is that the star point for her?
No,
Yeah, I think we've just discovered that that's not the, truth. So
rarely. It's a rare situation that your
yeah,
natal aligns with your star point.
which I love. I love, I love, I love. This is something new and something so exciting. I got to go track that down now. Asa says, Laarkmaa has said recently we must act free will or they won't interface. For example, International No 5G Day, 26th of September. Will they help us if we ask? So that comes sort of out of left field. I'm not quite sure what she's, that they won't work with us anymore if we don't choose to move up, or?
I think Asa has really misunderstood that quite a bit. What Laarkmaa
Or
said,
Christine, it was Christine's question. Ace has just given it to me.
I think Christine's misunderstood. Laarkmaa said there
Oh,
may not be possibility to interact in the same way because the energies are changing. That could mean 5G interferes with our connectivity. It could mean a global failure of internet. It could mean any number of things. They're not saying they refuse to work with us.
okay, gotcha.
They love to work with us. They're just saying that we need to do whatever we can now because circumstances are likely to change in the changing energies, and it may not be possible to work in the same way. That's all. I don't think the Pleiadians would ever tell us no to anything we ask if they could help.
Yeah, so is there a workaround? Because it seems like 5G is coming. I don't know that there's anything that we can do about that except not to engage it for ourselves. Are they working a new way for us to connect, or?
Well, we have information from several star brothers and sisters that are working on this, trying to implement protection and disruption of 5G, although they tell us continually that we have to do our part because it's our human responsibility to say no and stand up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's necessarily the implementation of 5G that will stop communication. I think it's the grid being too overloaded so that internet fails that would stop the communication. I think
Gotcha.
that's the answer.
Yeah.
Agree?
I agree with that. There are so many radio waves circling our planet now, starting with radio, television, the internet. There's so many energies that are disruptive to natural cycles, to our well-being, that they are clogging the entire atmosphere. And I think what Laarkmaa means is things may become challenging and difficult if this continues.
Mhm.
And what they want humanity to do, as Pia said, is stand up, use your rights, speak out, and do something about it. So I think there's a worldwide protest going on every day all around the globe.
And there's an international protest on the 26th of this month.
So there's a lot of energy aimed at stopping 5G. Whether it will be successful, who knows? We don't know. Laarkmaa doesn't know, but hopefully there will be enough energy behind the protests to actually stop this ridiculous implementation of a very, very lethal system.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the comments coming in. I had missed the names. So it was Christine that asked the question about the Venus. It was Om that asked the question about, will the Pleiadians still interface with us? Tom brought up the whole idea of the 5G increasing. This is coming from Christine. It will increase EMFs on the planet. Is that the disruption? Is that's electromagnetic
Yes.
forces?
Absolutely.
The electromagnetic field is getting jammed more
Yeah.
and more and more.
Yeah. Ursula asked a really good questions about the Hathors and the Pleiadians. Both have a connection to Venus. Are those two star families? Do they share a common heritage?
Don't know if they share a common heritage, but I can tell you that they communicate similarly. The Hathors communicate through music and tones, and the Pleiadians also communicate through music and mathematical tones. So their form of communication is definitely connected.
When we were introduced to Laarkmaa and we asked them, can you tell us what we can call you? They said, it's very difficult in human languaging to do that because we only communicate heart to heart through musical and mathematical tones, as Pia just said. And so we said, well, is there an approximation? Is there something you can give us? And they sang us their name. Instead of just saying it phonetically, they actually sang it to us. And so we understand that they do not communicate as we do.
I would love to sing. I that would be awesome. That idea just blows me away that happens. You know, Tom Kenyon, he sends out a Hathor's message and with music, and it just vibrates so deeply within, like whale sounds, and
Yes.
it just there's something very visceral that happens in the human body with that kind of music, almost as if maybe our languaging is harsh compared to some of these
It
other.
absolutely is.
It is.
Laarkmaa has a tone YouTube that you can listen to. It's on Pleiadian Laarkmaa YouTube, and it's called Laarkmaa's Heart Meditation. And you can hear some of the Pleiadian toning on that. But
Oh
they
my gosh.
teach us every day about the value of toning for changing our cellular health. It's absolutely imperative, and Cullen and I practice toning all the time.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day. It's interesting talking about languages. The English language may be the harshest language on this entire planet. It doesn't flow. It's very staccato and very interruptive between word. It's amazing that it was developed as it is. We don't know why, but the tonality of our English language that's so commonly spoken worldwide is really not the nicest noise that we can hear.
Oh, especially when you put it up against French or Italian.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you could just sit for hours and listen to someone speaking some of those Romance languages where ours is exactly right. There's just no, I don't know. It's just different, right?
Yes.
Just different. Another question from, oops, I missed one. Here we go. Ursula says, are they in communication with the Galactic Federation? Meaning the Pleiadians, I'm guessing.
You would have to probably ask Laarkmaa that question on a live call.
Yeah.
So that Do you want to say something about that?
Well, what we're understanding after all of these years with communicating with Laarkmaa and communicating with many, many other energies that we communicate with, it seems to us from what they say that many of these different groups, these different species, energies from many, many solar systems and many, many star systems, they're all in communication with each other because they're here watching and working with humanity. So they converse back and forth because it's a teamwork between all of them. So I would answer that question with probably a resounding yes.
And the reason I said on a live call is because sometimes on our live calls, the commander of the Earth quadrant for the Arcturians comes in. His name's Quantimo, and he comes and speaks. We have representatives from various other kingdoms that speak on our international live calls. So if someone is interested in the other aspects of those who are helping us from love and light, they come through on Laarkmaa's live calls quite often.
I didn't even know Laarkmaa did live calls. I mean, how have I missed this? And
International live calls every 2 to 3 weeks. They're on the website, on the homepage.
We've been doing this for many, many, many years.
They're free. And if you miss it, you can always buy the recording afterwards, but they're free for anybody who wants to participate live.
live.
And all you have to do is sign up for the newsletter and you get the instructions on how to participate before it happens.
And we
Well,
do,
guess what I'm going to be doing?
and we do archive all of them, so they're all
Okay.
available.
Well, that's good to know. And that's on Pia's website, Pia Orleane, or is that on Laarkmaa?
Laarkmaa.com.
Laarkmaa.com. I'm going there after we're done here. Okay, so a couple of other questions. Ohm asks, can they do a Laarkmaa message for us? I think that's kind of putting them on the spot, but I'll leave that for you. And then another question, is there any geometry along with the math and the tones?
Geometry.
So I'm wondering, like, if she means like tesseracts and that kind of thing,
I
or
don't know about geometry, but when they started teaching us, when they first came to us, they taught us an entire binary system. So their mathematics are binary. They're not based on our geometrical things that we want here on Earth. So I would say no, not geometry. It's a binary system.
binary. Great. All right. So I'm just like lost all of a sudden. I just have this need to get out all of your information to people. So I'm just going to say right here, because this also goes live on Blog Talk in a little bit. It'll also be on my website, your website, I'm sure, because I'll send you that link. And in the description underneath the video, I will post all these links to Pia's site and Cullen's information, and also to the site for Laarkmaa, and how people can get involved here, because we've talked about a lot of different things here. Pia, before we went live today, you were telling me about a link you were going to put in the chat. Now I don't recall what that was about. Do you?
No. You call.
Oh.
Let me check my Rolodex for a minute.
Oh gosh, we were just having such a great conversation. Now
Janet, it's how to buy the calendar. It's
oh yes.
I looked it up. It's www.laarkmaa, LAARKMAA.com/buy, BUY, -2021-calendar.
Got it. Okay.
And
So again,
I'd like to say one thing if I could on that, and that is to, if you're thinking about getting a calendar, if you're in Australia or in the UK or in Europe, you can get it within 4 or 5 days. If you're in America, better order early, because it takes about 4 weeks to get a calendar to anybody in America.
We don't know.
It's the shipping, because of the COVID restrictions, are just not working very smoothly in America. So if you want to buy Christmas presents for people, order it now, please, so you'll have them.
So you'll have it in time.
Yes.
What you were going to add something, Cullen?
Well, I was just going to say, we know it's because of the COVID situation, but we still can't understand why, if in the UK and Australia and Europe, it's almost instantaneous, why it can't be like that in America. It doesn't make any sense to us.
especially since it's published here.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
That just seems so silly that it takes, that whatever, right? We just have to go with whatever is going on. I know that I still have not received my calendar, and the book came last week, so we'll just see what happens. I can't wait for my calendar though. So order now, especially because 4 weeks from now already takes us into October. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's how this year has gone. And you want to make sure you do have it for the beginning of the year. You guys, thank you so much for coming on here today with me. It's been such a pleasure. I love you guys.
Thank you, Janet. We've enjoyed it. And I'd like to say one thing to Ohm, who asked for the Pleiadians to speak. If you want to hear Laarkmaa's channeling, there's a very good thing on YouTube you can go to. It is called They Call Us Channelers. And then look for Laarkmaa on the list of all the channelers. Look for Laarkmaa. And you can find it there, and you can listen to Laarkmaa actually channel. You can also join our international live calls and hear Laarkmaa in that way too.
There are actually many conversations that we've had during radio shows around the world.
Yes,
and
you'll find some of those listed on our website as well.
They're also available. So there's a plethora of actual live recorded encounters with Laarkmaa that anyone can listen to.
Awesome. I also found an article of yours the other day. Shoot, I don't know what I did with it now. And I was just, I don't even remember how I got it. Either somebody sent me a link to it, or I happened to be on another site and I found it. So just Google your names, right? I'm sure you'll find lots of different
all
information.
of our articles and our blogs are all on both of our sites, so you can find them there and read them also.
Yeah, we contribute to magazines and journals all over the world.
Yes.
In the UK, Australia, America. So there are actually many, many articles that we have written with the help of Laarkmaa out there to see.
Yeah. And, before we go, Laarkmaa isn't just an individual, right?
Right.
That explain about Laarkmaa a little bit so people understand.
They're a collective, like a family. When they first introduced themselves to us, they said, "We are one of six and six of one."
We had no idea what they meant. And then after we talked to them for some time, they explained that they're 6 individual energies working as a collective. So they have individual interests, individual ideas, but they combine all of those together in unity consciousness to form a greater whole. And so different aspects of Laarkmaa speak at different times. It's not always the same individual portion of their group.
And sometimes you can detect that when you've been listening for a long time. You'll say, that sounds a little different, because it's a different aspect of the group Laarkmaa speaking.
Fascinating, just fascinating. And there's also the procedure that you guys use, because don't you do this together, right?
Absolutely.
You're channeling the group together.
We have to be touching. We have to be sitting together, touching, and it's not one of us. Pia is the major speaker at this time. In the beginning, we both spoke. I don't speak anymore because we think laughingly that Laarkmaa enjoys Pia's voice more than mine. Her voice is more musical. But while I'm sitting next to her, I am an integral part of this. It won't work without both of us, because they use the libraries of both of our minds to connect with their language to the English language. So Pia and I are equally important and equally connected in this. It wouldn't work if we didn't do it together.
The other thing about that, Janet, is that your listeners won't know this, but Cullen and I are about as opposite as you can get, except for our worldview and our love for each other. We are very, very opposite.
Our personalities are 180 degrees different from each other.
And Laarkmaa says that is an absolute what they wanted when they chose us, because when we join together to receive their messages, we are so opposite that we prevent any kind of human filterization on their message.
No ego enters
no
into this.
filterization can come through, where many channelers, their own opinions will kind of seep into the message. Laarkmaa says it's impossible with the two of us, which is why they require us both to do this.
Fascinating. It's like one of you's the right hemisphere of the brain, the other one's the left, and coming together, joining your hands or touching allows the whole connection, the whole brain to work.
Yes, absolutely.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to check one last time here, see if there are any other questions. By the way, when Ursula asked that question about geometry, she meant sacred geometry. And I don't know if that changes any of the answer there. And I think that was it, as far as I can tell. So definitely, everyone, come back to the YouTube channel later on as I get it produced. I will have all the links there for you because I know that kind of went by pretty fast here this morning. And order your calendar now. I would get a Pleiadian reading if I were you, because I'm guessing you're probably booked out several weeks. And if any of you are experiencing trauma and dramas in your life right now, it might be a good idea to check into the sessions with Laarkmaa about healing that. So again, thank you two so much. I have loved every moment. And for all of you, my listeners, I will be back here tomorrow. It's Friday. Typically on Thursday, I know we do oracle readings or astrology readings. We'll do some of that tomorrow. I'll try to make sure that the weekend report is smaller so we have time for that. Take care, everybody. Much love. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you. And you guys can hang there for a minute.